It was the kind of heat that made the streets shimmer like rivers of glass, a thick July afternoon in Raleigh, North Carolina, where the sun pinned everything down like it owned the place. 15-year-old Malcolm Reed stood outside Prestige Auto, sneakers scuffing against the asphalt, sweat beading at his brow, heart pounding not from the heat, but from the sting of humiliation. The dealership's polished glass doors had swung shut behind him just moments earlier, cutting him off from the showroom where his dreams sat on display. All he'd wanted was a look. Just a glimpse of the SRX hybrid supercar, the cherry red beast he'd memorized specs on, sketched in the margins of every notebook since he was 6. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. 400 kilowatts of sleek, engineered power. It wasn't about owning it. Malcolm wasn't old enough to drive, not even close. But to him, that car wasn't just a machine, it was possibility, the future he could one day build with his own hands. But the man inside hadn't seen any of that. Travis Kent, the slick-haired, smirking salesman, hadn't seen a passionate kid who spent months poring over car design blueprints and powertrain breakdowns. He'd seen a black boy in a worn Kobe Bryant t-shirt with a busted backpack and sneakers that had seen better days. And in his eyes, that was enough reason to shove Malcolm out the door and tell him not to come back. Get lost, kid. This isn't a museum. The words echoed in Malcolm's head as he sat on the curb at the edge of the lot, blinking down at the cracked screen of his phone. His fingers trembled as he typed the text. Mom, they kicked me out of Prestige Auto. Said I didn't belong. He stared at the screen a long time after hitting send, the heat pressing down on him like punishment. He wasn't new to this feeling. 2 years back, a security guard at a sneaker shop had tailed him through every aisle. Last summer, a department store clerk asked 3 times if he was looking for someone, while he stood at the display of wireless headphones. But this one hurt more because this was his passion, his spark. The reply came quick, stay there. I'm coming. No emojis. No extra words. Just calm, clear, and edged with steel. It was his mother's voice even through text. Yvonne Reed didn't play. Yvonne, 42, was a quiet force. The CEO of Reed Cyber Defense, she'd built her company from her kitchen table into a powerhouse protecting hospitals, corporations, even government agencies. Forbes called her the silent giant, but around town she was just MS. Reed low-key, no flash, raising her son on good food, hard work, and jazz records. She drove a reliable Honda and wore gold stud earrings, her natural curls always neat in a bun. Malcolm knew his mom didn't swing wild. She didn't yell. But when her eyes narrowed, things moved. By 3:45 p.m., her black Tesla slid into the lot, doors hissing open like a spaceship. She stepped out blazer-sharp, chin high, eyes set dead on the dealership's front doors. Malcolm stood as she crossed the parking lot toward him. You all right? She asked, eyes scanning him. Yeah, Malcolm mumbled, shoving his hands into his pockets. Just embarrassed. Yvonne rested a hand on his shoulder, gentle but firm. You've got nothing to be embarrassed about, Malcolm. They do. Now you want to come in with me or wait here? Malcolm swallowed hard, then squared his shoulders. I'm going in. Inside, the air was cool, heavy with the scent of leather and polish. The SRX glinted under showroom lights, untouchable. Travis leaned against a desk, laughing at something with another salesman, Derek Vaughn, a guy with a goatee and too much cologne. When Travis caught sight of Malcolm and his mother, the smirk fell from his face. Kid, I told you. Yvonne's voice sliced through his words. You told my son to get lost. Now you're going to explain that to me. Travis blinked, caught off guard. Derek straightened up, sensing the shift. Ma'am, this is a place of business. We can't just let kids wander around here like... Like what? Yvonne's voice stayed cool, but there was no mistaking the weight behind it. Like human beings? Like customers? Travis shifted uncomfortably, glancing toward Derek for backup. Look, I didn't know he was your kid. We get people coming in here all the time, just messing around. You saw a black boy in a t-shirt and assumed he wasn't serious, Yvonne said. That's not company policy. That's prejudice. The word hit like a hammer. The family browsing the minivans stopped pretending not to listen. Travis flushed, jaw working as he scrambled for words. I don't know who you think you are, but you can't just. I'm Yvonne Reed, CEO of Reed Cyber Defense. And I could buy this place twice over if I wanted. But I'm not here to flex. I'm here for my son. Derek swallowed hard. Travis's face went pale. Yvonne took out her phone, tapped a number, and held it to her ear. Michael, I need you to look into Prestige Auto. Find out who owns it and how fast I could take control. I'll have details in an hour, the CFO replied without missing a beat. Yvonne hung up, then leveled her gaze back at Travis. I don't bluff. The room went still. The air hummed. Greg Harris, the dealership manager, hurried out from a side office, alarmed by the tension crackling through the showroom. Is there a problem here? He asked, eyes bouncing from Yvonne to Travis. Yes, Greg, there is, Yvonne replied. Your employee kicked my son out for the crime of being black and interested in cars. Greg stammered, hands raised. I'm so sorry, ma'am. We had no idea. No idea that he deserved basic respect? That he was a kid with dreams, not a threat. It won't happen again, Greg promised, glaring at Travis. No, Yvonne said. It won't. Because my team is going to oversee your staff training personally. And if I hear about anything like this again, I won't just buy this dealership. I'll make sure your name is off every sign. Greg nodded quickly, sweat shining at his temples. Absolutely, Mrs. Reed. Understood. Yvonne turned to Malcolm, her voice soft again. Now, baby, you ready to look at that SRX up close? Malcolm nodded, the sting in his chest easing as they walked together toward the car. His mother listened as he rattled off specs and details, asking him questions, letting him shine. The moment was his again. Outside, the day rolled on as if nothing had happened, but Malcolm knew better. Something had shifted. And so had he. As Malcolm walked alongside his mother back toward the car, the heat outside seemed less oppressive. Inside the Tesla, Yvonne didn't speak right away. She let Malcolm sit with his thoughts, allowed the moment to settle. Only when they had pulled away from the lot and turned onto the main road did she glance his way. How are you feeling, baby? She asked softly. Malcolm stared out the window, his fingers lightly tracing the edge of the SRX brochure he'd grabbed on the way out. Better. Still mad, though. You're allowed to be mad, Yvonne said, her voice even. But you're also allowed to turn that anger into something that builds, not burns. Remember that. He nodded slowly, the words sitting heavy in his chest but also giving him something to hold on to. That evening, after dinner, Malcolm retreated to his room, flipping through the pages of his design notebook. His pencil moved across the paper almost on its own, the familiar hum of creative energy slowly overpowering the weight of the afternoon. He sketched the SRX from memory, but with his own to chase: a modified grille, a sleeker hood line, a fusion of power and grace. Downstairs, Yvonne sat at her desk, reviewing the email from Michael. Ownership details, board contacts, the entire corporate structure of Pinnacle Group. She flagged the necessary documents, drafting a plan not just to push back but to create lasting change. By Monday, the wheels were in motion. Yvonne's legal team reached out to the dealership's ownership group. Conversations began about policy revisions, training programs, and corporate accountability. But Yvonne didn't stop there. She contacted local media outlets not to publicize what had happened but to spotlight the broader issue of discrimination in retail spaces. Meanwhile, the video footage from a bystander at the dealership had quietly started circulating online. The clip captured Yvonne's calm but firm confrontation, Malcolm standing quietly beside her, dignity intact. Without any need for her to share it, the story began to spread. Comments poured in, "This happens too often. Why does it take a CEO to get basic respect? Good for her standing up for her son." Malcolm watched the buzz unfold with mixed emotions. Friends from school texted him, some angry on his behalf, others surprised. But what stood out most was the number of people reaching out to say they'd experienced something similar. One evening, a week after the incident, Yvonne sat Malcolm down at the kitchen table. "I've been thinking," she began. "This isn't just about Prestige Auto. There are kids like you everywhere, kids with passion, talent, dreams that they get shut out before they even get started. I want to change that. And I want you involved." Malcolm's eyes widened. "How?" "We're going to start a scholarship fund. For young designers, engineers, innovators. We'll call it the Malcolm Reed Initiative. And you, my dear, will help choose the recipients." The words hit Malcolm like a lightning bolt. Empowerment where there had been dismissal, purpose where there had been pain. He felt his shoulders straighten. His heart beat a little steadier. In the following weeks, the initiative took shape. Malcolm helped draft the criteria, pushing for the fund to prioritize kids from underserved communities. They partnered with local high schools, community centers, and even engineering programs at nearby colleges. Yvonne brought in guest speakers, designers from major automotive firms, engineers, software developers, each of them there to share knowledge and uplift the next generation. The first scholarship application window opened within 3 months. Hundreds of young dreamers applied, submitting sketches, essays, and videos describing their visions. Malcolm reviewed every one of them, amazed at the raw talent and passion pouring off the pages and screens. Meanwhile, the dealership's ownership group, under pressure both publicly and legally, agreed to the terms Yvonne's team laid out. A formal apology was issued. Staff underwent not just sensitivity training but full-scale education on unconscious bias and anti-discrimination policies. And though Prestige Auto continued selling cars, the culture inside those walls was no longer the same. Travis Kent, after several tense meetings and overwhelming evidence of his behavior, was officially terminated. Greg Harris, the manager, implemented regular reviews and welcomed Yvonne's oversight team for quarterly training sessions. Change wasn't instant, but it was real. Malcolm didn't return to Prestige Auto. He didn't need to. His focus was on building something bigger: his designs, his future, and the initiative that now bore his name. The first Malcolm Reed Scholars were announced at a local community event that fall. Malcolm stood on stage beside his mother, handing out certificates to the inaugural group. Cameras flashed. Families cheered. But it was the look on the recipients' faces, the pride, the belief that stuck with him the most. Among the scholars was a young girl named Tiana, just 12, who had submitted a series of bold concept sketches for a solar-powered SUV. When Malcolm approached her afterward, she beamed, eyes wide. "You really think I can do this?" she asked softly. Malcolm smiled, remembering that feeling all too well. "I know you can. You belong here." Yvonne watched the exchange from a few steps away, her heart full. This was what she'd always wanted for her son: not just success, but strength. Not just the ability to stand tall for himself, but to help others rise with him. And in that moment, under the glow of the event hall lights, surrounded by dreams that had been told they didn't belong, Malcolm Reed stood not as the kid who had been shoved out of a showroom, but as the young man who helped build doors where others tried to put up walls.